Hi, my name is Sophie Joseph, and for my Anthropocene and Context project, I've chosen the topic of the changing mammalian fossil record as a potential marker of the Anthropocene as a new epoch. Um, in order to put this topic into the present this topic is from the perspective of someone who hasn't taken this course. I've decided to invite my brother to join me for this video podcast in which I'll get some of his ideas of what he views fossils as and their significance, and then kind of maybe teach him a thing or two about the real impact they can have on our understanding of the Earth system over time. This is my brother, Theo.
Hello.
He's a senior in high school and he hasn't taken any geoscience classes before. So, Theo, I'm wondering, based on your background, what you've seen in pop culture, things like that, what is your idea of fossils and the fossil record? Like, what do you know?
Well, what I know is that fossils are usually bones in the ground, and usually for the fossil record, I understand that's a reference to like time and being able to tell time. So the deeper you go, the fossil record will give you fossils that are older than the ones that are higher up.
Nice. So, from what Theo's told me, fossil record can show you something about time. It can show you about maybe like what bones there are. But as a matter of fact, Theo, the fossil record can tell us a lot more. And with the Anthropocenes and the changes it's brought about, the fossil record can actually tell us a lot about the biodiversity, range, and behavior of the animals and other species that have been preserved in it. Much like Theo, prior to taking this course, in my mind fossils were simply bones just buried in the earth. However, as I've come to learn, fossils have a much bigger story to tell, and they also can be more than just bones. In particular, with the dawn of humans as the dominant influence on the Earth system, we will begin to see a major change in the fossils that are dug up in the future. In particular, these fossils will show a much different picture than previous ones have, including a change in the biodiversity, range, and behaviors of terrestrial mammals. Before I get into explaining what the fossil record can show about the Anthropocene, I'm curious to get Theo's ideas about what exactly he thinks it might show, coming from a perspective of not having taken a geoscience course. Theo, so what do you think the fossil record in the future, years from now, will show to scientists then?
I think it'll show a lot of humans, possibly domesticated animals. If you think about all the farmland we use, where we have thousands of animals just of single species just concentrated, those will definitely like play a role, and I feel like it's going to be kind of confusing to understand because it's going to be like one of the first times they're going to be uncovering like a widespread just like civilization, and then they're going to find all these bones and they'll have to really think about it.
Spot on, Theo. It was actually pretty spot on about how the Anthropocene will impact the future fossil record. One of the major things that future scientists will see in the fossil record is a high concentration of fossils in certain areas. For instance, like Theo mentioned, farmland will show a high number of domesticated animals all in one place. Additionally, areas like cemeteries and landfills will also show concentrated fossil material. So, one of the things that the human influence in the Anthropocene that will be shown in the fossil record is a difference in range as compared to previous fossil records. In addition to a change in the range of fossils during the Anthropocene, there will also be a difference in the noted biodiversity that can be seen in the fossil record. For instance, as humans have conquered the globe, they have taken many animals with them from different regions, and oftentimes these animals can be invasive species. As such, they will overtake the fossil record in certain areas, and many other animals that would have been seen will no longer be found. One example of an animal that has overtaken the globe is the rat, which we often take as commonplace in our own life, but it wasn't as commonly widespread as it used to be. And actually, an interesting thought is that in the future fossil record, there will actually be mass graves of humans that have been influenced by the rat's dominance during the Black Plague and the fleas it used to spread this disease. So, the Anthropocene, with the spread of humans, has also led to the spread of other animals, and these animals as well can overtake the fossil record, leading to changes we haven't seen before. Another key point about biodiversity that will be evidenced in the Anthropocene fossil record is the occurrence of the sixth major extinction event, which is actually occurring as I speak. So, as humans have taken over as the dominant force influencing the Earth system, they have contributed to unnaturally fast rates of climate change. And these rates of climate change have led to an increased rate of extinctions. Unlike previous extinctions, which occurred naturally, these current extinctions taking place are doing so without replacement, meaning that as these species go extinct, there aren't species to take their place. As a result, we will continue to see decreased biodiversity in the coming fossil records. So while I've already talked about how the Anthropocene fossil record will show changes in ranges of mammals and in the biodiversity of mammals, we have yet to talk about how the Anthropocene fossil record can reveal the behavior of mammals. So Theo, in particular regards to humans, how do you think the fossil record in the future might reveal some of our behaviors?
I feel like it might reveal our behaviors, like how we lived, our maybe even our diets, or just the daily activities normal humans took part in, because they'd be able to look at the bones.
As Theo noted, some of the behaviors that can be seen in the Anthropocene fossil record include the human diet. Well, we already discussed the increased farming and how this will be shown in concentrated livestock fossilization. Another way that the fossil record can show our behaviors in eating is the increasing size of poultry birds. With the advent of farming as our primary food source, we've actually begun to breed chickens to be larger and larger to feed us. And as such, the fossils of these chickens will actually become bigger and bigger boned. Another way in which our eating habits can be shown is actually based on practices of hunting and butchering. So the fossil record will actually be able to reveal these practices because butchering and hunting processes can chip the bones of the animals and will show distinct cutting patterns. And these will actually be preserved in the fossil record, so future researchers will be able to deduce how we've treated these animals for purposes of eating. The fossil record can reveal much more about behavior than just diet, though. For instance, the fossil record will show mining holes, cemeteries, landfills, and even railroad tunnels. So, while we often think of fossils as tangible things, items you can take up out of the ground like bones, fossils can actually also include something known as a trace fossil, which we might often think of as like a dinosaur footprint in the mud. These can also be applied to human behaviors though. Railroad tunnels themselves actually count as a trace fossil because while they aren't actually something you can pick up out of the ground, it is a remnant within the earth that shows the behaviors of humans. So the fossil record, in addition to showing, increased bones of humans, poultry, things of that sort, evidence of, butchering practices of bones, the fossil record will also show our behaviors in ways we might not often even think about. Leftover mine shafts, these railroads, these will all show our behaviors to future researchers. Keep referring to future researchers. It's important to note that even today we can begin to glean some information from the forming Anthropocene fossil record. One of the papers I read published by the National Academy of Sciences actually referred to how some paleobiologists in current times are looking at death assemblages. So how dead matter is amassing in seafloors, to kind of see how this serves as a precursor to future fossils. And by being able to look at these forming fossils alongside the living species, they're actually able to kind of put the process in context and get a better idea of how the Anthropocene is influencing fossil formation in real time. So, while I keep talking about past fossils, how we find those, future fossils, what those will mean, it's important to keep in mind that even now we can use forming fossil information to add to our knowledge of how the Anthropocene is making such a big difference in how the Earth is functioning, like how human impact is growing. For instance, this paper even talked about how factors like fertilizer runoff may be visible in the fossil record, and even now are being shown in this assemblages of dead biological matter. So I'd like to thank Theo for being my interview participant and kind of just offering his perspective, give me something to bounce off of. And hopefully from this, we've both learned a little something about how the Anthropocene fossil record is distinct from those of previous epochs because it has decreased biodiversity, increased range, and can elucidate some of the behaviors of humans as to become the dominant force on the globe. Thank you.